Welcome to Jersey Matters. This week we come to you from the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office. In a moment, we're going to go upstairs and talk to the Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden, who is a vocal opponent of the recreational marijuana legislation. Also on today's show, it was one of the most highly covered, horrific murder cases in New Jersey. And we'll talk to someone who was there for every second in the courtroom of the Sarah Stern trial. And in one Bergen County community, you can get a heavy fine if you can't keep your dog quiet. And now, our interview with Monmouth County Sheriff Shaun Golden. Thank you so much. Appreciate you doing this. You have been one of the most outspoken opponents of legalized marijuana, the bill that's now being pushed through Trenton. The governor has said from the very beginning, even on the campaign trail, this is all about social justice. It's all about the fact that there is too high a number of especially African American and minority youths being arrested for either selling small amounts of drugs or consuming small amounts of marijuana. You're skeptical of that.
Listen, I think when we are having the debate and deliberation over marijuana, you have to break it down into the three sections, right? One is medicinal marijuana, medical marijuana. The other is the social justice aspect of marijuana, decriminalization, if you will. And then the third is the recreational use, or what we're calling adult use marijuana.
Let me stop you for one second. You say decriminalization. You say that that would deal with the social justice. They claim, the other side claims, no, the way to do this, two steps, which I want to talk to you about. Legalization and then expungement.
I think they're being disingenuous in the sense that they're using the legalization under the cover of social justice and expungement and all that. You can certainly pass a law today, Larry, and they know this, and I've asked them about this. You can certainly pass a law that says, hey, this should be addressed, we can reduce the fines, we can reduce the amounts of possession. All that can be reduced to a summons, if you will, for a roadside adjustment on the summons, not an arrest or incarceration. So there are ways to deliver this, in terms of lawmaking and coming out with laws. But our feeling is, and those that are opposed to it, they're clouding the whole issue with medical marijuana, the expansion of medical marijuana, and you won't hear me argue that. You won't hear me argue the decriminalization. Do I think those should be incarcerated, particularly minorities? Yes, it's unfair, and the ratio is one of the worst in the state of in the country. However, address it with laws. They can certainly change the amounts, change the law, change the outcomes, without lumping in legalization.
Let's go all through it, but to what you said a moment ago, if it's not about social justice, what's it about?
It's obvious. When we look at the debate and where the first debate took place, it took place in the Budget Committee. Why would a marijuana debate take place at first in the Budget Committee, right? Usually Health and Human Services, right? Criminal Justice Committee, Law and Public Safety. All those other committees are supposed to hear the bill. But it was heard in the Budget Committee right from the outcome. Why? Because it's about the money. An estimated $300 million in tax revenue to fill holes in the budget. And this budget, quite frankly, that the governor has put forward, $1.4 billion more than last year, there's going to be some holes to fill.
One of the things you brought up that I thought was fascinating, and I didn't hear anybody bringing up, at least is not as well, was the fact that the money that's going to be raised is not going to be evenly distributed, so that local municipalities, local law enforcement won't be seeing that money.
You know, when you look at the bill, you just need to be concerned. Let's hold off on the distribution of money where's it going, right? There's no explanation of where the estimated $300 million in tax revenue from the sale of marijuana, where is that going? What's it dedicated to? Right? Is it going to be dedicated to more behavioral sciences and prevention? And, after all, we do have a heroin epidemic in the state of New Jersey. Is any of it going to be dedicated to that? Right? Is it going to be dedicated to education and enforcement? There's no clear answer about where that dedicated money is going, because it's not. It's going to go into the general fund. It's going to try to plug some massive budget holes. Now let's talk about distribution. How any local government official can be for this bill as written when you're going to get 3% tax, maybe, on a sale of an ounce of marijuana, and the state realizes 25% tax right out of the gate, $42 an ounce. You know, if you do the math estimates on $300 million, and I think some of our local officials here did in Middletown, they would maybe realize, if you back out the ounces sold, maybe realize $30,000, $40,000. You can't even pave a street for that. You can't even take care of infrastructure. So, as a local official and from the county perspective, this is a bad deal for our local municipalities, our communities, because it's not only about that, Larry. It's about, and you've heard me say this argument. We can argue the merits of for legalization against legalization, but I said if you're going to do the policy, why isn't this written like alcohol? Why isn't this an alcohol beverage policy? We already have laws on the books for licensing so that the towns can control per capita licensing so there's not unlimited pot shops that can be established in each town. The local police chief can do background checks on shop owners and their operators and address problems with the ABC like we do with liquor establishments. That's not in there. The liquor license itself, that money goes to the town. It's distributed, right? And then the state makes the tax off of the sale of alcohol. It is not that way. All of this money is going to the state.
But let's forget the money for a second. If there's no background checks and anybody can open up a pot shop and anybody can come to go buy it, you're dealing with some law enforcement problems right off the bat.
Right off the bat. And this is my argument and what I've argued, with the senators that will listen. Make it, if you created the bill much like the alcohol beverage control bill, this would maybe palatable for law enforcement in local municipalities, but it's not. None of these issues, and again, we haven't discussed the black market. We haven't discussed crash data from other
Let's
states.
talk about the black market.
Yeah. And again, in my testimony in the Senate Budget Committee was that the black market will still exist. You cannot say that at $42 an ounce of taxation, right, $280, $300 an ounce purchase, 42 of it for the tax, one would be naive to think that there would be no black market. You look at some of the data coming out of Colorado and Washington, the black market, we've spoken, we've had the head of the Sheriff's Association in Colorado out here with our chiefs of police and the Sheriff's Association of New Jersey talking about black market growers, black market sellers, because the cartels have figured out that, hey, we can get a grower license and expand and sell on the end around into the black market because, again, not everybody is going to be able to afford the $300 an ounce with the $42 tax.
Just to make what you're saying really crystal clear. So the legal marijuana is going to be too expensive, and what you're going to do if that happens, and what's happened in other states, is to embolden and to empower some of the illegal trade. And that's the black market, and that's actually grown.
You need only look at the story in the LA Times 3 weeks ago where the governor of California summoned and called up over 150 National Guard to do what? Help local law enforcement attack the black market because the sales are not going as well, so that therefore the tax revenue is not going
And that's
as well.
another cost to you, because then you're going to have to go after the black market. There's going to be new drug dealers that you didn't have to deal with before that are going to be around specifically because of the black market.
And by the way, if it's compounded, because think about this. If you do a decriminalization that is so watered down, then what's the penalty for the black market person selling on the street corner or carrying more than they're allowed to carry, right? I mean, let's think about it. What's the penalty for that person? If you water down decriminalization to the point where it doesn't matter, then why wouldn't the black market thrive?
There's a couple other things I want to talk to you on this topic about, and we'll do that when we come back. I also want to talk about the opioid crisis that you pointed out and the possibility of you running for governor when Jersey Matters continues right after this.